They thought they had stolen livestock. They thought they had taken something weak. They didn't realize they had just declared war on an entire species. And when one human child died in their chains, humanity stopped being merciful.
The bright horizon drifted through the Kuiper expanse like a promise. She was not armored, not armed beyond meteor defense cannons. Her hull gleamed white against starlight, adorned with painted oceans, forests, deserts, and children's handprints. On board were 133 children, the Driftborn. Amina Rahal stood near the observation dome, dark curls tied back, notebook in hand. She was 12 and already carried herself like someone older.
I'm gonna terraform something someday,
She told Mateo Cruz, who was upside down in microgravity.
Cool.
Mateo grinned.
I'm gonna design the engines that get you there.
Mateo loved machines, loved taking things apart, loved understanding why something worked. Sienna Kovács floated nearby, recording everything with a small holodrone.
Documenting future legends.
She said dryly. Jun Park didn't say much. He just watched the stars, memorized them. Their laughter echoed through the rotating habitat ring. Then every escort drone winked out. Amina felt it first. The silence, the stars twisted, and the Ver arrived.
The Ver vessel dwarfed the bright horizon. It looked grown rather than built. Jagged, organic armor plating, glowing weapon nodes like malignant stars. Captain Rhea Solano didn't have time to issue more than a partial distress burst before a lattice of gravitational suppression wrapped the ship. Power died. Gravity failed. Children screamed as they floated uncontrolled. Then the alien ship swallowed them. Inside the Ver containment hold, the children were cataloged. The Ver Dominion valued biological resources. They ranked species by utility. Humans were categorized within 6 hours. Soft, social, high neural adaptability, potential slave labor, potential research value. They did not yet understand the variable called attachment.
Admiral Jonas Hale had buried soldiers before. He had never buried children. When the corrupted signal from Relay Theta 9 was reconstructed, Hale watched the final 3 seconds of Captain Solano's transmission 12 times. Children aboard. Those words echoed. Hale was not an emotional man. Career Navy, strategic mind, calculated. But he had a granddaughter, age 8. The council chamber debated caution. Hale spoke once. If we hesitate, we teach the galaxy we are safe to prey upon. Fleet mobilization began within 72 hours. He did not know where the enemy was, but he knew something else. If a single child died, he would end whatever species had done it. High Executor Threxel of the Ver Dominion studied the humans. Threxel was ancient by Ver standards. His exoskeleton bore ritual scarring from 100 campaigns. He had unified rival Ver houses under conquest doctrine. Strength justified existence. Weakness invited extinction. The humans fascinated him. They displayed fear, but also cohesion. When isolated, they attempted communication. When frightened, they clustered. Threxel reviewed recordings of them singing in containment. The sound unsettled him. He ordered Phase 2, increase stress, measure fracture points. He believed pain revealed truth.
Isolation began. Amina was first removed. She returned shaking but controlled.
They're testing reaction speed, logic puzzles, stress.
Mateo clenched his fists. I'll break something next time.
No, We survive first.
Sienna began observing the guards' patrol cycles. June memorized door codes by sound. Days passed. The VE escalated. Food reduced. Light cycles disrupted. One child, Elise Tan, had a panic episode. Amina held her until it passed. The VE noted group stabilization. Humans compensated for weakness through collective reinforcement. Classification updated. Pack bonded. Sienna discovered the neural probe frequency. It overlapped with a narrowband channel. She pretended to hyperventilate. She modulated breath. Prime numbers pulsed through the probe. Across 4 light-years, Deep Observatory Array Helios caught the anomaly. It took analysts 21 days to confirm origin. Admiral Hale stared at the coordinates. They're alive. Fleet departure was immediate.
Jun was selected. 9 years old. Quiet. He did not cry when they restrained him. He did not scream during neural overload testing. He thought about his mother's garden, wind and leaves, earth sunlight. The VAIR increased voltage beyond predicted tolerance. Jun's heart stopped. Threxel observed biometric readouts. Human termination threshold lower than desired. He ordered the body displayed to the remaining children. He expected collapse. He observed rage. He did not yet understand that rage multiplied.
The Armada arrived 52 days after the abduction. 6 carriers, 30 destroyers, hundreds of strike craft. Humanity had never assembled this much force. Admiral Hale received the casualty confirmation. June Park, age 9, confirmed deceased. He closed his eyes. 3 seconds. Transmit ultimatum. The VAIR responded with refusal. A defense platform fired first. It missed. Hale's voice did not rise. Directive Black, authorized. The first human volley erased every known orbital weapons node in VAIR outer space. The war had begun. The Karthos belt was not empty space. It was a graveyard of shattered moons and mineral-rich asteroids orbiting a red dwarf star at the edge of VAIR-controlled territory. Orbital platforms had been embedded into the largest fragments, their weapon arrays disguised within a rock and regolith. The first response armada dropped from jump directly into a prepared kill zone. Admiral Hale had expected that. "Spread formation Sigma," he ordered calmly. Human carriers fanned outward, destroyers forming layered defensive screens. Autonomous drone clouds surged ahead, mapping hostile signatures in real time. The VAIR defense network activated. Hundreds of concealed plasma lances ignited simultaneously. The first human destroyer, UNS Resolute, took a direct hit. Its forward section vaporized instantly. Hale didn't flinch. Counter battery, prioritize heat blooms. Human ships responded not with singular beams, but with coordinated saturation fire, kinetic slugs, guided fusion torpedoes, directed energy pulses in layered sequence. Where VAIR ships were individually formidable, human vessels operated as integrated swarms. Mateo would later describe it as like watching ants take down a scorpion. The VAIR fleet emerged from behind the asteroid field, angular warships armored in thick-grown plating, their hulls absorbing initial impacts with brutal resilience. They were larger, heavier, slower. The first true fleet-on-fleet engagement lasted 14 hours. Human destroyers maneuvered aggressively, darting between debris, using the belt's mass as cover. Their ships relied on brute strength and frontal assault doctrine. The turning point came when Hale authorized something rarely used outside simulations. Deploy Harpoon Net. A coordinated web of micro-singularity mines detonated in sequence, distorting local gravity vectors. 3 Vare capital ships were pulled off trajectory, colliding with asteroid fragments at relativistic speeds. The belt became a storm of molten rock and expanding plasma. Human losses mounted. 8 destroyers destroyed, 2 crippled carriers. But by hour 14, the Vare defensive perimeter was shattered. The path to the Citadel world lay open. Hale allowed himself one quiet breath. Continue advance.
High Executor Threxel observed the battle through quantum-linked projections. The humans did not retreat when outgunned. They adapted. They sacrificed strategically. They coordinated beyond individual survival instinct. This was not prey behavior. This was predator cohesion. A subordinate suggested initiating slave liquidation protocols to deny leverage. Threxel considered it, then dismissed it. No, their young are their weakness. But uncertainty crept into him. The recordings of the children's rage after Jun's death replayed in his mind. He had expected despair. Instead, their cortisol spikes had synchronized. Their vocalizations had intensified. They had pressed against containment fields, not collapsed away. For the first time in centuries, Threxel felt something unfamiliar. Not fear, recognition.
The Citadel world orbited a blue-white giant star. Orbital rings bristled with weapons platforms. Shipyards extended like skeletal ribs into vacuum. Human forces punched through outer defenses with calculated brutality. Precision strikes eliminated command relays. Drone swarms overloaded shield nodes. Then, Special Operations Unit Valkyrie launched. Inside the Citadel, the children felt the first tremor. Amina grabbed Mateo's sleeve.
That's not them. How do you know?
Elise whispered.
Because they don't sound afraid.
Explosions rolled through corridors. Containment barriers flickered. Their guards repositioned defensively. Sienna focused on the hum of power conduits.
They're rerouting energy. Something big.
Jun's absence was a hollow presence among them. They did not say his name, but they felt him. Then the wall detonated. Smoke filled the chamber. A human marine stepped through. Black armor scorched. Helmet cracked. "Hi," the marine said gently. "We're here." Mateo burst into tears. Amina didn't.
Are you all that's coming?
She demanded. The marine's eyes softened. No. Behind him, war raged. As rescue teams extracted the children, Vare reinforcements converged. Hale faced a strategic dilemma. If he committed the full fleet to extraction support, he would leave outer flanks vulnerable to counterattack. If he split forces, the boarding teams might be overwhelmed. He thought of his granddaughter. He thought of Jun. "Reinforce Citadel orbit," he ordered. "Collapse their outer defense grid entirely." "That exposes our carriers," his tactical officer warned. Yes. The order stood. Human ships surged inward, absorbing punishing fire to shield Valkyrie's retreat corridor. 3 more destroyers died holding that corridor open. The children were evacuated in waves. When the final transport cleared the Citadel's gravity well, Hale gave the next order. Target their high command node. Threxel's chamber shook as human kinetic strikes pierced the Citadel core. For the first time, he felt it clearly. Fear. Human marines reached the high command chamber. Threxel did not flee. He stood tall, armored frame illuminated by emergency lighting. "You respond disproportionately," he transmitted. A human officer replied coldly, "You killed a child. To test resilience, you found it." The firefight was brief. Their elite guards fought with disciplined fury, but human marines had momentum and rage. Threxel fell beneath sustained kinetic fire. As his vision dimmed, he understood something too late.
The humans had not escalated because of strategic necessity. They had escalated because of attachment, and attachment was stronger than conquest doctrine. The Dominion died with him.
With the children safe, the Council urged restraint. Hale refused. Their military capability remains intact across 11 systems. Directive Black expanded. Over 6 months, every Vare shipyard was destroyed. Every orbital weapons platform dismantled. Every standing fleet hunted down. Slave populations liberated. Human strikes were surgical. No planetary glassing. No civilian extermination. Only disarmament so complete that Vare militarism could never rise again. Other species watched in stunned silence. Humanity had not conquered, it had neutralized.
Earth stood still. 142 children came home. 1 did not. June Park's funeral was broadcast across every colony. His mother spoke only once. He was afraid of thunderstorms, but not of the dark. Amina delivered the closing words. They thought we were weak. They thought we were alone. She looked at the sky. We weren't. The phrase, "Remember June," entered military doctrine. It meant no hesitation, no mercy in defense of the innocent.
The collapse of the Vare Dominion destabilized regional power balances. Former slave species formed alliances with humanity. Trade corridors shifted. A new interstellar charter was drafted, the Sentient Protection Accord. It prohibited biological trafficking across signatory species. Humanity became its primary enforcer. Other civilizations updated their classifications. Humanity, protective apex, high retaliation probability, extreme attachment-driven escalation. Exploration ships now traveled armed. First contact protocols changed. And across the galaxy, one truth circulated quietly. Do not touch their children. 52 days. That was the number burned into Admiral Hale's mind. It replayed in his thoughts in quiet moments, the delay between abduction and arrival, the space between knowledge and action, between hope and confirmation. He reviewed the timeline again in his private quarters aboard the carrier UNS Aegis. Day 0, abduction. Day 6, signal anomaly flagged. Day 27, signal origin triangulated. Day 52, Armada arrival. June Park had died on day 41, 11 days before the fleet arrived. Hale stared at the projection until it dimmed automatically. He had won the war, but he had lost the race, and that distinction would never leave him. Though the children were rescued from the Citadel, the system itself was not secured. Residual Vare fleets attempted counterattacks in surrounding sectors. The extraction convoy carrying the children was heavily guarded. 2 carriers, 5 destroyers, layered drone screens. Amina stood in the transport bay beside Mateo and Sienna, watching medics move through the rows. Elise still trembled in her sleep. Some of the younger children refused to separate from each other. June's absence felt physical, a space where someone should have been. Mateo stared at a maintenance panel on the transport ship.
They'll never build anything like that again.
He muttered.
Like what?
Sienna asked.
They're warships.
He wasn't bragging. He was promising. Outside, their raiders struck the convoy's perimeter. Human escorts responded instantly. The children felt the deck vibrate under weapons discharge. Amina closed her eyes and breathed evenly.
They can't take us again.
Elise whispered.
They won't.
Amina said. For the first time, she believed it fully.
While the war raged, Earth argued. The United Earth Council was not unanimous in supporting Directive Black. Some delegates feared escalation would destabilize neighboring species. Others argued total dismantlement violated proportionality principles. One speech circulated widely. "We are becoming what we fear." Admiral Hale addressed the council remotely from the fleet. "Respectfully," he said, voice controlled, "what we fear does not sing to children before killing them." The transmission silenced the chamber. Public opinion overwhelmingly supported the war. Images of the containment chambers had leaked. The galaxy had seen the children behind transparent alloy walls. No government could politically survive advocating mercy for June's killers. Humanity had crossed a moral threshold, not toward cruelty, but toward finality.
The Vare Industrial Core spanned 3 systems. Massive orbital shipyards grew warships from biomechanical lattice frameworks. Human intelligence, assisted by liberated slave species, identified structural vulnerabilities. Operation Iron Eclipse commenced. Phase 1, power grid disruption. Phase 2, targeted reactor overload. Phase 3, controlled collapse. Human stealth frigates infiltrated supply lanes. Sabotage teams deployed nanite swarms into structural nodes. The largest Vare shipyard, Korath Prime, burned for 2 days. Explosions rippled along its spine like lightning crawling through bone. Former slave workers watched from safe distance aboard evacuation transports. For some, the destruction was justice. For others, it was closure. Mateo later studied footage of Korath Prime's collapse. He memorized its architecture, so he could ensure humanity never built something like it.
Sienna Kovács did not join the Navy. She joined intelligence. Years later, she would become one of the foremost experts in signal warfare, but it began during captivity. She had learned something critical. The Vare relied heavily on centralized command networks, so she helped design counter-network infiltration protocols. During the final months of war, human cyber warfare teams injected the recursive signal loops into Vare communication arrays. Entire battle groups received contradictory commands. Vessels collided, formations fractured. The Vare had built their empire on rigid hierarchy. Humans attacked the hierarchy itself. Sienna's contribution was classified, but Admiral Hale sent her a private message. "You saved lives." She never replied. She was still counting the one that wasn't saved.
Mateo never forgot the sound of the containment barrier humming, or the feeling of helplessness. He enrolled in propulsion engineering at 16, graduated by 21. By 25, he led development of the Aegis Drive Mark IV, a jump engine capable of unprecedented response times. His thesis was simple: no more 52 days. Rapid response fleets became standard. Human colonies were never again more than days away from reinforcement. At the unveiling ceremony, he stood beside the prototype drive core. A reporter asked why he had chosen military engineering. Mateo answered quietly, "Because someone has to make sure we get there faster next time."
Amina Rahal carried leadership like gravity. After returning to Earth, she struggled with something unexpected: anger. Not the explosive kind, the quiet kind. She blamed herself for not preventing June's selection. Rationally, she knew she couldn't have. Emotion rarely listens to reason. She studied xenopsychology before transitioning into planetary sciences. Understanding alien minds felt necessary. If humanity was to avoid future wars, someone had to understand why they began. Years later, she addressed the Sentient Protection Accord Summit.
We cannot assume cruelty is universal, but we must assume capacity.
She advocated for early cultural exchange programs, monitored contact zones, and strict anti-trafficking enforcement. She refused to let June's death become an excuse for xenophobia. Justice, not hatred. That distinction defined her.
One Veer fleet had survived initial destruction, hidden beyond mapped territory. Led by Commander Vorax, a younger war leader who rejected Threxel's miscalculations. He believed humanity's retaliation proved they were too dangerous to coexist. He planned a final strike, not against military targets, against a colony world. The attack came without warning. Human early warning arrays detected jump signatures hours before arrival. Thanks to Mateo's Aegis Drive implementation, a rapid response group intercepted the fleet mid-transit corridor. The battle was brutal, close, personal. Human ships no longer fought defensively, they fought decisively. When Vorax's flagship was crippled, he broadcast one final message. You have become monsters. Admiral Hale, long retired but observing as civilian advisor, responded, No, we just remember. The last Veer fleet fell. With it, organized military resistance ended permanently.
Galactic Registry's updated humanities threat profile. Protective apex. High retaliation probability. Child harm escalation maximum. Some species grew cautious, others sought alliance. Former Veer slave civilizations formed cooperative defense pacts with Earth. Interstellar law evolved. The kidnapping of sentients became universally prosecutable under the Accord. Human fleets became peacekeepers, but the peace they enforced was unambiguous.
Years later, the children, now adults, returned together to June's memorial, a quiet garden beneath a transparent dome overlooking Earth's curve. Mateo placed a small model engine beside the engraved stone. Sienna left a data crystal. Amina left nothing. She simply stood.
Do you think he'd have liked who we became?
Elise asked softly. Amina watched the stars.
I think,
She said slowly.
I think he would have liked that we didn't let them win.
Above them, orbital defense platforms glinted in sunlight. Silent. Ready. The galaxy had learned. Humanity is peaceful until you touch our children, and no one ever did again.
Time inside captivity did not pass normally. The children did not have clocks. The Veer manipulated light cycles unpredictably. Long artificial nights, harsh white days, sometimes flashing strobe intervals during stress trials. Amina began counting heartbeats, roughly 72 per minute when calm. She measured hours by breath and pulse. Mateo measured by maintenance rotations. Every third cycle, a specific guard with a cracked left mandible replaced another. Sienna mapped electrical fluctuations in the containment barrier. The hum shifted slightly before patrol changes. Jun had measured by memory. He memorized everything. After his death, the children changed. Not outwardly. The Veer still recorded compliance during feeding intervals, still observed reduced resistance. But internally, something hardened. Amina stopped thinking of rescue as hope. She began thinking of it as inevitability.
They don't know what they did.
She whispered one artificial night. Elise clutched her hand.
What did they do?
Amina's eyes did not leave the guards.
They made it impossible for us to forgive.
Long before humanity, Threxel had been young. On the Veer homeworld, survival was brutality distilled. Predator seas, toxic skies, rival clutches competing for territory. Threxel rose through conquest. He unified fracturing Ver houses under a single doctrine. Strength is moral. Conquest is proof of worth. Compassion is strategic weakness. He believed it absolutely. When humanity appeared, he did not see children. He saw leverage. He saw data. He saw opportunity. But in private moments, after June's biometric line flattened to zero, he replayed the children's reaction. Not collapse, not begging. They had pressed forward, toward the barrier, toward the guards, vocalizing, defiant. It unsettled him in ways battle never had. For the first time, Threxel questioned whether strength had another form. He suppressed the thought. Doctrine did not bend, but doubt had entered him like a fracture line beneath armor.
The Ver Dominion had enslaved dozens of civilizations. The first liberated species during Directive Black were the Cathari, avian-descended bipeds with iridescent feathered crests and hollow bone physiology. They had once ruled 3 systems before Ver conquest. Human Marines breached a Cathari labor station orbiting a gas giant. Inside, they found generations born in chains. When the containment fields dropped, the Cathari did not flee. They watched the humans carefully. A Cathari elder approached cautiously. "You are not Ver," it said through translator implant. "No," replied the human captain. "We're here to end them." The elder studied the human insignia bearing the phrase, "Remember June." The elder did not understand the words, but it understood tone. Within months, Cathari engineers contributed to rebuilding destroyed Ver infrastructure into civilian networks. An alliance began not from diplomacy, but from shared trauma.
Directive Black achieved its goal, but it cost humanity dearly. Total losses: 27 destroyers, 3 carriers, over 14,000 personnel. Entire families received folded flags. Jun's name was not alone on memorial walls. Admiral Hale personally attended as many funerals as he physically could. He never mentioned strategy, never justified loss. He only said, "They held the line." The public supported the war overwhelmingly, but grief reshaped the culture. Humanity did not become bloodthirsty. It became vigilant. Defense budgets doubled. Exploration protocols hardened. Children aboard civilian vessels were now accompanied by armed escorts. The galaxy noted the shift. Human kindness remained, but it now traveled with teeth.
With Threxel dead, the Dominion fractured. Some Ver factions argued for surrender and reconstruction. Others clung to conquest ideology. Human intelligence intercepted internal communications revealing panic. Ver military academies shuttered. Shipyards lay in ruin. Young Ver hatchlings grew up hearing 2 narratives. Humans are monsters who destroyed us. Humans are consequences we earned. Amina advocated against extermination.
Leave them space to become something else,
she told the council. The accord mandated strict demilitarization, not annihilation. For the first time in their history, the Ver were forced into introspection. Without fleets, they had to define themselves differently. The galaxy watched carefully.
Admiral Hale stepped down 5 years after the war. He declined political office, declined memoir deals. On his final day in uniform, he visited the Orbital Academy. Cadets lined the corridor. One asked him quietly, "Sir, was it worth it?" Hale paused. "I hope," he said carefully, "that we built a future where that question never has to be asked again." He retired to a coastal city on Earth. He watched his granddaughter grow.
He still counted days sometimes, 52, but he also counted something else, 0, 0 more taken. 100 years after the abduction, the Sentient Protection Accord had 43 signatory species. Interstellar trafficking had nearly vanished. Joint patrol fleets operated across former VAIR territory. Human Cathari research stations flourished. Their society had transformed into a trade-focused culture, their militaristic past taught as cautionary history. In a galactic archive, a historian recorded, "The VAIR dominion fell not because humanity was stronger in weaponry alone, but because humanity weaponized attachment." The phrase protective apex remained in classification databases, but a secondary descriptor was added, alliance-driven stability node. Humanity had become something unexpected, a stabilizer, but one with memory. At June Park Memorial Park, now expanded into a global monument, children played beneath sculpted metal arcs representing broken VAIR warships. A plaque bore his name. Below it, etched in steel, "Because one child mattered." Amina, now elderly, walked the garden with Mateo and Sienna.
We changed the galaxy.
Mateo said softly. Sienna nodded.
Not because we wanted to.
Amina touched the plaque.
We changed it because we had to.
Above Earth, fleets patrolled quietly, not conquering, not threatening, watching, ready. On the VAIR homeworld of Sarakai, beneath skies once filled with warship traffic, a young hatchling named Kireth listened to forbidden history. The old Dominion amphitheaters had been converted into learning forums. Military banners were gone, weapon displays dismantled, but memory remained. Kireth's instructor projected archival footage, carefully selected, legally mandated by the Sentient Protection Accord. It showed the Citadel burning, human ships advancing in layered formations. It showed the children in containment. It showed June's biometric flatline. The hatchlings shifted uneasily. One raised a claw. "Why did they destroy our fleets?" The instructor answered without hesitation, "Because we taught them that we would not stop." Kireth replayed the footage later in private study. He watched the moment the human Marine breached the containment chamber. The Marine's weapon was raised, but his voice was gentle. "Hi, we're here." Kireth did not understand the sound humans made when they sang, but he understood tone. He began to question whether strength required domination or protection. It was a question the Old Dominion had never asked. On Earth, in the coastal city where Admiral Hale once retired, a school group visited June Park Memorial Park. Among them was 8-year-old Leela Cruz, Mateo's daughter. She had inherited her father's restless curiosity. She stopped before the plaque.
Dad?
She asked quietly.
Why is this one name bigger?
Mateo crouched beside her.
Because sometimes,
he said carefully,
history changes around one person. Was he a soldier? No.
She frowned.
Then why did everyone fight?
Mateo looked up at the sculpted arcs of broken VAIR warships.
Because he wasn't.
Leela studied the metal curves overhead.
Would we do it again?
Mateo didn't hesitate.
Yes.
Leela nodded solemnly. Then she ran back to her classmates, laughing. Mateo watched her go. The sound of children playing freely in the shadow of memorial steel was the quietest victory humanity had ever known. Peace never remains unchallenged. 73 years after the fall of the Dominion, a minor trading confederacy on the edge of known space intercepted a refugee vessel. Among the refugees were juvenile members of a small amphibious species fleeing famine. The Confederacy detained them, not as slaves, as leverage. News reached Earth within hours.
The response was not immediate violence, it was immediate presence. A human patrol fleet translated into orbit over the Confederacy's capital world. Communications opened. The human envoy spoke calmly. "You are detaining miners for political advantage. Release them." The Confederacy leader replied nervously, "We did not harm them." The envoy's tone did not change. "Release them." Across the galaxy, observers waited. Human fleet power dwarfed the Confederacy's, but no weapons fired. Within 3 hours, the detained juveniles were transferred to neutral custody. The fleet departed without incident. The message was unmistakable. Humanity did not require war every time, but the memory of war stood behind every negotiation. Protective apex did not mean aggressive, it meant decisive.
In her final public address before retirement, Amina Rahal stood before a hall filled with diplomats, historians, and young cadets. Her hair was silver now, her voice steady.
"We were not exceptional because we fought,"
she began.
"We were exceptional because we chose limits."
She paused, letting the words settle.
"We dismantled fleets, but not worlds. We destroyed weapons, but not children. That distinction is civilization."
A holographic image appeared behind her. June, age 9, smiling in microgravity.
"We are remembered as fearsome,"
Amina said softly.
"but what we must remember is why."
After the lecture, a young Ver delegate approached her. Kirith, now an ambassador. He bowed slightly. "Your species reshaped ours," he said. Amina studied him carefully.
"Good,"
she replied.
Years earlier, before his passing, Admiral Hale recorded a final private log. It was sealed for 50 years before release. The recording showed him seated on his balcony, overlooking the ocean. "I am often asked," he said, "if I regret Directive Black." He looked out at the waves. "I regret that it was necessary." A long pause. "I do not regret that we finished it." The log ended there. No music, no flourish, just the sound of wind.
2 centuries after the abduction, interstellar maps displayed a subtle marking in archival overlays. Historians referred to it informally as the line. Before June, after June. Before the war, humanity had been categorized as promising. After the war, humanity was categorized as definitive. Explorers still charted new systems. Artists still painted nebulae. Children still took field trips aboard ships like the Bright Horizon 2, now escorted by stealth frigates invisible in the dark. And across the galaxy, in military academies and diplomatic halls alike, the lesson remained required study. Do not test a species that bonds beyond biology, because some lines are not drawn in sand, they are drawn in stars, and humanity had drawn theirs in fire. Across charted space, in trade academies and military institutes alike, one case study was mandatory: the human response. It concluded with a simple analysis. They will negotiate. They will forgive. They will cooperate. But harm their young, and escalation becomes scientists. But somewhere in their collective identity was a line, and once crossed, the stars themselves would burn before humanity stepped back.